So you wanted to talk more about cards. I swear I've done so much of the talking and I apologize, but I wanted to do a lot of research into this and make sure that I was giving people a lot of really cool options for development and practice and things that they can use.
Mhm.
We wanted to do cards last because it's kind of a big topic. So it's your turn to kind of run with the ball here and talk a little bit about the tarot or the tarot, depending on how you talk about it. And then we'll close out with just intuitive decks. But so,
Right.
what would you like to talk about with tarot? Because that's your specialty, not mine.
I guess what I wanted to bring up is just the many different ways that it can also be used, and how many different decks and all these different things that I've actually learned just recently too. So what I was going to do is I'm going to shuffle the cards really quick, and I'm just going to pull one card from 3 different decks.
Now, are you doing this for you? Are you doing this for me? Or are you just doing this as a general?
Doing this as just, this is like, we'll just say this is for anybody.
What's your intention?
Anybody that's watching this, if this is your message, then hopefully it resonates. So a lot of people, I'm just going to show how it's done. So like some people are like, look, I'm just going to pick up the first card off the top of the deck, which so happens to be the Ace of Water. You can't really see because of all the glare.
Can a little bit. That's good right there. Yeah.
This is the, and it's backwards. This is the Angel Tarot cards book from Doreen Virtue. Ace of Water is the Ace of Cups. So what you want to understand about the tarot cards is that they all have suits and you can use them. They all kind of are the same way. But so the Ace of Cups, because it's water, it usually has something to do with like relationships or love, something on the emotional level, right? That's what, because that's how water represents. There are no numbers on this card, but if I look, at the card, I get like my own, intuitive hits on it. And it's just like, wow, there's such a beautiful cup in the picture here. And the Ace of Cups a lot of times represents your own cup in self-love, right? So it says falling in love or the resurgence of a relationship, spiritual growth and enhanced intuition, or it could be a new home, right? So those are the possible interpretations for that card. Now, let's say that card plus I want to couple it with this Oracle deck. Now, Oracle decks are a little bit different because they don't have the major and minor arcanas. They just are kind of standalone. This is the Ascended Masters deck. So each one is like a different Ascended Master from, it could be all over.
I have that deck, yes.
Yeah, I love this deck actually. So I'll just pull one card.
I think I have about 40 decks over here. I just love them.
This one says detached from drama. This is Athena. To me, that says, and then when we couple it with what do they mean together, to me, this is like, oh,
good point.
We need to detach from outside things that we cannot control, and focus on our own cup. That's one thing, right?
Well, that's pretty true for everybody right now based on what's going on in society, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we won't talk
detach
about
from the
stuff.
Drama and love yourself.
Right?
That's so definitely the energy of right now.
Right. So I guess I just wanted to show like the couple different types of decks and how they could be used or how they could be used together. So now this one is a past life deck, also by Doreen Virtue. I'm just going to shuffle a couple times and pull one card. Now, a lot of people will also do things like they'll pull the top card and then they will, for example, read the bottom of the deck. And the bottom of the deck for this deck on the Angels was the Moon card. And this talks about things that need to be revealed or haven't been revealed, or it can be psychic insights, intuition. It can also be like the feminine energies, right? It depends on the person, I guess, that is interpreting the card.
Absolutely.
Okay, so for a past life card, if you say what past life cards are weird to me. Okay. And I don't know. I guess you would use them as, I don't use them very often, but it's like you could use them as, what is something that is affecting my life right now?
Oh, that's a great idea. Sure.
That I need to know about and be aware of. Karmic relationship came up. Mm-hmm. So this could be something that you're dealing with in a, it could be more than one relationship, but it could be a reoccurring theme, right? And then when you add it all together, it's like, what is this reoccurring theme?
It creates a story, right? It creates a story.
Detachment from trauma.
Just like my words that I draw create a story, right?
Exactly.
You're following the breadcrumbs.
Right. So now you can use as many decks in a reading, I think, as you want. There's no limitation to that. But the idea is, what do you want to get out of each deck? So, and then what is the story that you're trying to tell?
Now, do you have a set number of cards that you generally like to draw, or do you just kind of feel inspired to, because you said 3, but that, I mean, that's just a personal decision, right?
Right. So again, it's before you go to do it. What is your plan going to be? So a lot of times when I'm doing readings for people, I just do like a 4-card draw out of one deck. And then I'll do 4 cards right off the bat. And then I'll pick one card like this, ego, and say, this is the basis or the crux of the situation or your problem. Mm-hmm. And then the rest of the cards will kind of follow through. Mm-hmm. So each spread is different. They have, like Celtic cross spreads, and they all have different meanings for the different positions. For me, you don't have to have all these crazy rules about it. It's more about what you decide are the rules.
Well, that's what we've talked about with all the tools. It's what feels best for you. It's what flows easiest for you.
Right.
Now, if you feel inspired to pick 9 cards for that person, then pick 9. If you feel inspired to do 2, then do 2.
Right. So I don't know. That's just an example, I guess. I just wanted to pull some cards just to like say, you can use multiple cards or multiple decks.
Yeah, that was interesting the way you took the decks and kind of mixed them up and then created the story that way. I've always just done it from one deck.
Yeah.
But that's a creative way to do that. Yeah.
Doing that also is because you can take, for example, a card. Okay, like here comes the Chariot, which is such a pretty card.
That is a pretty card.
You take the Chariot and say, well, why did the Chariot come up? I want to know. And then pull another card for a validation, and you'll say, oh, this validation is because of, you got the Chariot because of this reason. I don't know what it is, but it could be anything.
I understand. Right? Yeah. You're explaining how you do it. Yeah.
Right. So validate why this card came out, pull out another card. Yeah, you can use charms. You can add all kinds of things into this one setting, or you could just use one deck or even one card. What's the one thing I need to know today?
Exactly.
I would suggest though, for me, I like to just say, what is it that I need to know right now? What does the universe want me to know?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Questions that I can stay detached with, that I'm not like, am I going to get that job tomorrow? Am I going to win the lottery?
Right. I think that's right. Kind of keep them general. What's the most important thing you need to know right now?
2 cups. So yeah, this is what I need to know. And you can do it when you do it for yourself. I feel like when you pull it like that, it's easier to be like, okay, that could be for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not, instead of like having influence over it. Like, I don't have any influence over the card that came out.
Because you didn't ask a question, so to speak.
Right.
You put it out there as to be an open-ended. Yes, I totally understand.
Right. So what does the universe want me to know? They want me to know 2 of cups.
Which is why you can start at the beginning of your week and draw your words, draw your charms, draw one card. Like I draw one card from 3 of my favorite decks, and I will set those up. so that I see them when I come into my room every day and they're up there. And I just kind of let them speak to me and say what it is that they need to say. One of them is an animal deck because I love my animal deck. Another one's an archangel deck. I can't remember what the other one is. And then this is my favorite one. It's the Osho Zen Tarot. I love this
Oh,
one. I don't know why they call it a tarot, because to me, tarot is the classic. I mean, to me, tarot is just the classic tarot deck. You know, like you
right.
said, it's got the suits on it.
Hmm,
You
hmm.
know,
I love
that
those classic ones.
those are I've had this deck for 30 years. That's how old this is. Um, but these are the classic ones. And it's not to say that they don't have signs and symbols in it. You know, it's like you can be drawn to just the sun and the moon that's kind of up there. What is that? And what does that
Right.
mean? And how do you
Hmm.
interpret that card without ever having to pull out a tarot book and ask yourself what those cups even mean? And actually, we
Right.
did this in a development circle once and had a really great time. We drew one card. All 6 people looked at the card and they used this to give a reading to the same person. Not one of the 6 people had the same reading, but every single person gave that woman an accurate reading off of this card because each
Really?
person was drawn to something that was relevant. Now, some people will say, well, that's because the sitter made it fit. It's possible, but
Maybe.
I
But
mean,
I mean,
maybe.
I see that card and I see a man walking away from something, you know. I
And
see
see,
someone.
I was immediately drawn to the sun and the moon, and that told me something very different. And so,
Mm,
this is the whole point, is that a card draws you differently than it draws me. That's all that matters, is what you're getting from it. It's not about right or wrong. It's about what you're
right.
inspired to say and what it means to the person that's across from you. So this is the
Mm-hmm.
classical deck, which I know you've got a lot of varieties of, but then, you know, this is the intuitive deck. This is my Osho cards. They're very
I love
artsy.
that deck. Yeah,
This
I
is my
love that
favorite
deck.
deck. Very
You've given me lots of
creative,
readings on that deck.
loaded with artwork.
Oh, I love it. See, past lives.
Oh,
That's
here's
awesome.
something that you didn't touch on that I'm curious. This card is
Hmm.
upside down. Now, some people look
Oh,
at cards as right side up and upside down as having meaning.
yes.
I do, but how
Reversal.
about for you?
Um, typically it's like I can't ignore it when they come out upside down in a reversal.
That's a personal decision for people, though, too, don't you think, on how you read it?
Well, not necessarily. Like for this angel deck, they don't have any reversal meanings in the book. They literally don't. Um,
But it could mean the opposite of
what any other tarot card does, or tarot
exactly.
decks, they do have reversal meaning. So if you already know what that reversal meaning is, then you can interpret it. For me, how I interpret reversals is usually something that the sitter needs to fix, or they are already fixing it. So they're already kind of aware of the problem and it's like conquered, right?
Right.
So like, okay, you know that you needed to fix that and you're well on your way to the other three
Like this is
cards.
the card that now right side up, it says maturity, right? And you
Right.
see someone that's really self-reflected. This person has grown a great deal. I see all this growth inside, all the flowers. I see what looks like a mirror. They've really looked at themselves and they've really grown and they've really developed. But when I would draw that card this way, what I would say to that person at this moment, whatever it is that's going on with this situation that you're concerned about, there's a lack of maturity going on here. You haven't looked inside. You haven't taken accountability for yourself. There needs to be growth in this area. I'm drawn to the darker colors. You're down in this darker space, and you need to move yourself up into this lighter area, which will only happen by having a sense of maturity and doing the self reflection that's necessary. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I would say to you if I looked at that card. It is
Yeah.
a purely interpretative, but that's what I'm drawn to.
Right.
That's what that says to me, and that's how I would
Mhm.
read it. You would read it very differently. So I do give upside down meaning significance
Yeah.
personally, but I some people don't, and I think that that's okay too.
I think it's okay. I think it depends on maybe what you've already decided to do in the reading. So if you've already decided that you're not going to bother with reversals, then just don't. Because some readers don't. They're just like, we're not going to talk about reversals today. And then some readers will be like, yeah, well, it came out reversed and that's weird. And I have to acknowledge it because it could have significance to someone, especially if you're doing, some kind of reading on YouTube or in a group collective type situation.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's just a one-on-one, usually your sitter should know kind of what that's about and whether or not they're actually, in that reversal state, or if they've recognized it. Because to me too, it means like, it's like they've recognized it, but they're still working on that issue.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe that person does have a maturity issue, but they know. They're like, I know,
Right, exactly. I think again, it's kind of following your gut and seeing what's there for you. And then, like you said, setting your parameters, whatever your parameters are. There's no right or wrong. It's about what works for you. And that's really what's the most important.
Because I felt like it was really a lot to try to take in, to say, okay, I have to have my spread exactly like this, and I have to interpret it exactly like this. And if I don't do that, then that means it's wrong. And I just couldn't do that. So when I first started out, it was literally just, 3 cards, and then one like clarifier card that is, the basis of the situation. Right. And that helped me to really grow into bigger spreads.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think cards can be a great developmental tool, like I said, just drawing one and asking yourself what you're drawn to, what is a color that stands out? What's significant? If the word means something to you, then that's okay to be drawn to the word. And again, like you said, there's a million different ones out there. I love the animal deck. If you draw, let's say, for example, that was the card that you drew. It's like, well, what does the wolf represent to you? What does it make you feel? What's the first word that comes out? And it's very interpretive. And these are great practice things to do because people want to develop their psychic abilities and they start thinking. Thinking is the killer of psi, right? It's just the killer. You need to be creative. You need to be out of the thinking mind. And these tools are a great way to at least get you started. So you can use them for a lot of different things. I do encourage people to work with others. I think that when you practice with someone else, it's super important because you're doing it for yourself. It's so hard. It can be helpful and it can be insightful, but you get a lot more. And I think you grow faster by doing it with other people. Do you not agree?
I think if you do it for yourself, you need to have those kinds of open-ended questions like I just asked. Like,
absolutely.
What does the universe want me to know? Not, specifically, because you won't be detached.
Right.
Exactly. You won't be detached.
No, I totally agree. That was a great suggestion. Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't you find that when you started reading with other people, that's when you really kind of honed in more, like when you started pulling cards for people?
Yes, I'm surprised I still have friends because I would have people come over and I'd be like,
let me pull cards for you.
Yeah,
you used to do it all the time for me. I remember.
Yeah. And it was just like, it was something that I wanted to let me do it,
I used to do it with a friend as well. It's like, we would call each other in the morning and she'd be like, do cards for me. Yeah. And when I would pull sometimes I would just pull card after card after card, and I would just let the card take me through the reading. I mean, I would have 20 cards pulled out. So I think that's the other thing. You don't have to limit yourself. Just be in the moment. Allow yourself to just tell the story that's coming up. Now, here's another curious question. Do you think that cards and psychic tools can help with mediumship?
Yes, I do actually.
Okay. And why?
But only in the way that I feel like you need to have some sort of, how do I put that? You need to have an idea of what it is you're already thinking, or, like, I don't know. I haven't really used them for mediumship. I do have a mediumship deck that has, Oh yeah, it's not. It's behind me. But it's got all these different messages, right? And I did find it to be pretty validating for the people that I pulled it for.
Okay.
Even when it was like somebody's dead horse, it was really weird. So I mean, can cards be used? Sure. Should they be used in mediumship? Strictly no. I think if you use it as like an in addition to, that can be one thing, but I wouldn't use it strictly by itself, because then that's not really mediumship. And it's hard to get accurate messages. I would say there's no way to validate where it's coming from, even if you say, okay, well, I'm going to pull these cards and ask my dad, what do I need to know? Well, you might as well just ask the universe, because your dad is basically there.
Right. No, those are really good points. And I know that there are some mediumship decks. And I think the whole point is these are tools to help get you started to connecting. As you develop and as you expand, you'll start to get a sense of where your information is coming from. Is it coming from someone, or is it coming from something? Two very complete different things. But let's say, for example, you draw a card, and this is probably a poor representation, but let's say, I've got the feeling that this is about a man, and he's got dark hair, and he was someone very important, and probably was a businessman and part of the, someone that we would really look up to as far as society is concerned. So you can get impressions about a person from a card because that's what you're drawn to. So that doesn't mean that you're not connecting with maybe someone's departed loved one. But I think you're right. At some point, you kind of almost have to detach and allow the message that needs to come through from them at some point to come forward. This is a way that you can kind of go, oh, I'm really connected to a man right now.
Right.
It can be a lead in, right? It can be a lead in to that.
And you can probably get additional information, with the cards, but
perhaps, but it's generally not how mediumship is taught. It does not mean, again, that it cannot be a tool. I don't want to tell anybody nothing won't work that way. Because I don't think that that's fair for me to say, but ideally these are generally more, question and answer. Here's what's going on. Here's what I see. Here's what's in the field, that kind of stuff. And it doesn't mean that it can't be accurate or helpful.
Right.
It takes me back to the last thing as we'll close up here, because it's kind of been a long episode. The ultimate tool is you. You are the ultimate divination tool. And so I think at some point, there's nothing wrong with using a tool, but they can become crutches. People are afraid to take the leap to get rid of the tool and to use just their consciousness. And so I like to warn people to be careful that your tool is supporting your psychic abilities, not a crutch for them.
Right. So like for me, like I said in the beginning, it was helping me validate what I felt like I already knew.
Sure.
So
then it's a tool.
Right. So I would kind of come up with, I guess, the story or the scenario first, give it to the client, and then let the cards sort of validate what I've already said. And that to me kind of just puts emphasis on the message. It's like a double whammy, because
it can.
There's no way I could have pulled those cards in that order. And that's what I love about tarot, is that it's really hard to fake, in my opinion, if you're shuffling, right in front of the person or whatever. I know a lot of people say that they think people are phony on YouTube or whatever, but it's hard to fake that. If I say this is the message, and then the message literally comes out into the cards, what are the chances of those exact cards coming out
right
like that? I don't know.
No, I understand. I don't want to bash tools. I just want to say, if you want to become more psychic, right? If you want to advance your own body as the ultimate tool, at some point, I'm going to say to people, put the tools away. Do it on your own. Get one-on-one with people, down dirty, nitty gritty, which makes you face your fears. It takes all the crutches away, and it makes you the ultimate tool. And I think that's where we have our highest and best connection, because the information is coming from us. There's nothing wrong with tools. I love them. I use them for myself because I cannot detach You brought that up 100 times. I can't detach from myself. The tools allow me to detach and get that. But there are also times when I channel and I want nothing to do with the tool other than a pen or a computer or my microphone, and I just speak. Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes I will use a person's body outline before I'm doing a session with someone. And I will say, where do I feel, I just have this generic outline that I got from the internet, and I'll just start writing on it. And I'll use that as a focal tool to just see where I'm pulled or drawn or what feels here, what feels there. But I don't rely on that. That's just a supporting part.
Right. Kind of what we're talking about setting these parameters and rules in divination, and that anything can be used in divination also applies to yourself. So for example, when we talked earlier about, or in other videos I meant, about, what are your signs and signals for this direct mediumship kind of thing. So that's how you are the tool. That's how you are using the divination as your tool. So trying to think of a good example. But like, let's say you have a particular sign that means this for you, you see the sign, you're like, that's my dad, right? That's the same idea as, I picked up this rose petal and interpreted it as the love of your life, right?
Right.
So that's, you are the ultimate divination tool. I think though, if you are just getting into it and, you do need that crutch, or just because they're kind of fun and pretty and whatever.
They can be fun. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think they can give you additional information that you would not have come up with, maybe sometimes.
Sure.
Especially when you take the time to read the book's interpretation of it. Because you can get a lot just by looking, but when you read it, you get something different. So
And you brought up a good point too, like the little charms and the rose petal. Let's say, for example, you worked with tools for 6 months, you used your bowl of charms, and you said, okay, now I'm going to do a reading with someone and I'm not going to use the charms. And you just sit back and you just focus, but you start seeing the charms in your head.
Yeah.
Right. You already know what that charm means for you because it's now become a symbol for your psychic library.
Exactly.
So that in a way kind of becomes this, again, it's kind of a development tool, but you want to be careful because maybe you'll see a rose and it means something else, or, so
it could have double meaning.
It can have different meanings. Exactly.
Sure.
Yeah. So anyway, so long episode, lots of stuff to cover. But I hope that we've given people kind of an idea of just the power that can be in divination or psychic tools, how they can help you with your development, help you with personal insights, and they can also be used for other individuals. Just be sure you're applying critical thinking. Sarah's brought up great points that I wouldn't have brought up about parameters and having the right intention and keeping your questions open-ended. So that's my thoughts. How about you?
That's it. That's good.
All right. Awesome. Well, thanks for pulling some cards. Now, are you doing cards for people if they want to get a hold of you?
Yeah. I do tarot, mediumship. But yeah, I'm definitely, and I'm going to start posting some tarot readings on Instagram as soon as I get my ish together. And I honestly, I struggled with it a little bit just because I do want to have, I guess, a good plan, but not too long of a plan. And I want it to end up being like an hour reading because that would suck. But
right. Well, I mean,
so
the podcast is already long, right? We know people are really committing to watching, and we're very grateful to those because I know there are people that watch our whole episodes, and I hope that we're really giving them some good stuff to look at. But I just wanted to be sure that if people wanted to reach out to you to ask questions about how they use the cards, or likewise how I use cards and so on and so forth, or even just to get a session, to know that we're available for those.
Yeah, I am booking personal readings now. And if you'd like to book a personal reading, you can go to my website at Astral Maid Services.
Okay.
And yeah.
Gotcha. And of course, we've got the contact information down below in the show notes, both for your page and as well as Facebook as well. So thanks everybody for joining us. We appreciate you staying here and we look forward to the next episode. Bye-bye.
Hey, bye.